Well, here's a introductory to me, I guess. I am currently driving my car at 7 fucking something, 8 o'clock, I don't know. I can't see my clock. Because my life's a mess. And I want my story at least somewhere, regardless if anybody really sees it or not. Introductory to my life, part 1, final part, I don't know if I can make it multi-part. Maybe I'll just make one long-ass video so people can just watch it and see if they care or not. More than likely, nobody's gonna give two shits about any of the fucking shit I'm saying. My phone's gonna fucking die. Well, I hope that fucking worked. Back to the beginning. Grew up in Santaquin, middle class family, had everything that I really wanted, basically. Like, there were some exceptions, but I was happy as a kid. Most kids are. My parents were always together, never really had to deal with a split family, except the cousins I didn't get to see very often because they lived hella fucking far away. But wasn't really a sociable child. Hell, I'm still not sociable now, but I constantly had behavioral issues because of undiagnosed mental problems that honestly still don't know if they've been properly diagnosed or not, because everybody's fucking crazy is a little different, and I don't know. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, bipolar. Oh, where the hell am I? Roundabout. Woohoo. Where was I? ADHD, bipolar, major depressive disorder, and severe social anxiety, I want to say they called it. And yeah, I'm just nuts, I guess. Had behavioral issues most of my life. And I don't blame the mental disorders, but I feel like it definitely had a role in it. So growing up, I wasn't really allowed to do a whole lot, mainly because my mom was afraid that I would just go from 0 to 100 and hurt somebody. So I wasn't really allowed to roughhouse with my brothers. Don't have any sisters, but my siblings were able to go out and do things with their friends and whatnot, and I really wasn't, because again, my mom didn't know what I was gonna do. And as I got older, I was diagnosed with different things and seemingly just fell into line, mostly because of the meds. I didn't have the energy to really do anything else except whatever they told me to do. Didn't really have my own thoughts or feelings, and I worked with my dad doing mechanic work, after schools, weekends, from about the age of 13. I learned a lot, I've forgotten a lot. But I do appreciate those times because they were times that I got to spend with my dad and was seemingly happy now as an adult, I know I wasn't happy. I was just numb. There's a difference between being content and being happy. Then I started talking to one of my cousins more, and we ended up, well, not we, she was already smoking weed, but I ended up getting into that and then having some legal troubles because of that. Because especially at that time in 2014, 2015, whatever year it was illegal. And anything over X amount, I want to say it was a couple grams, was a felony. Luckily, the officer I dealt with was really nice, and, you know, probably because I'm a privileged white kid, like everyone loves to tell me, I kind of got away with, I wouldn't say a slap on the wrist, but basically a slap on the wrist. But then I was on an app called Whisper and met this girl. We're gonna call her Rose. It's not her real name, by the way. We're gonna call her Rose. I kind of got entangled with her and, you know, decided, you know, my family could go fuck themselves. And that was when my life kind of took a turn. Because at that point, my dad was like, Cat, you're 19 now. You're 18, however old I was at the time. I want to say 19. You can make your own decisions. So I moved out of my parents' house and immediately in with her and her mom. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. We drank a lot. We partied. We, you know, got into some other drugs. We had our ups and downs. We ended up, you know, leaving Utah because her family is originally from Idaho. Her mom was moving back. I stayed here for a while and wasn't happy, especially with, you know, my fiance gone. So we went to, I got sick of shit over here in Utah and went to Idaho to live there. Moved over there for about 8 months, 6 months, 8 months, I don't know, it was a while. And didn't work. Just kind of did whatever I could to get money together. I, you know, went through my whole fucking savings account, overdrew my bank, didn't pay my bills, credit turned to shit. You know, that's kind of how that works. Then, you know, one day her older brother, who was staying with us as well, was, you know, not the greatest person, was doing, you know, more illegal stuff than the lot of us put together, and was also a self-proclaimed satanic neo-Nazi. So yeah, that was, you know, it's not go that way. That was a fun time. Ended up getting attacked by him. You know, got stabbed a couple times. And I, you know, went and got the gun that we had in the house just because I'd already been stabbed, didn't want to get shot too. And in the process of that, I had, you know, called 911, gave them a brief like, hey, I need you over here now because shit's going down, and then I hung up, which is not what you're supposed to do at all. And cops showed up, and they came in the front door, and I had a gun, so, you know, they're immediately very aggressive. So I set the gun down on the counter. I turned around, put my head against the wall, and just waited. And then I end up sitting in the back of the police car while they're looking for him still, because when the police came in, he took off into one of the back rooms and jumped out a window. After sitting in the police car for probably 10-15 minutes while they were looking for him still, every one of them gun drawn, they didn't know what was going on. He comes skipping down the road, and I let the officer know, it wasn't an officer. There was a guy in the car with me. He was probably there on just a little ride-along thing that turned, exciting for him. Let him know that the guy they were looking for was just past skipping down the road. He let the officers know, and they took off. And then I got taken to the police station. They asked me, questions, what happened. And then the officer took me back home. When I got home, all my stuff, or not all my stuff, but a lot of my stuff was packed up into my truck, and my keys were on the dash. So I took off over to a buddy's house, spent the night over there, talked with him, and talked to my fiance a little bit, and she told me that she didn't really want anything to do with me if I was willing to call the cops on her family. Regardless, that the whole situation that I called the cops on was me trying to protect her and her son. She didn't really care, so I ended up coming back to Utah. Moved into my parents' house for 6 hours before my dad told me that, because of behavioral issues I've had in the past, my mom wasn't comfortable with me living at the house. So I left. Went and stayed at my grandma's rental property for a little bit because it was currently empty. And the deal was I could stay over there if I helped, get it cleaned up for the next people to come live there. Because the tenants that had it before were heavy drug users and weren't paying rent, so they got evicted. And they completely just trashed the place. So I was over there, trying to make ends meet. Didn't work. And I ended up, just hanging out over there, smoking weed still, even though I should fucking know better. And, doing a lot of just nothing. I spent a couple hours out of the day cleaning stuff up, and then I would go back to bed. I literally couldn't bring myself to get out of bed. Well, my aunt who lived in the house next door, it was 2 houses on the same property, so she was living in the other house and would come and drag me out of bed, try to help me, go out and find a job, but I just wasn't motivated to do anything like that. And kind of just, existed for a while. Well, after I got the place cleaned up, it took me about a week, 2 weeks. Somebody rented the property. And I was over there when they were showing him the house and stuff, and talked to him a little bit, and he offered to let me stay there. He wasn't asking for any rent money, which was nice because I didn't have any money. And he took care of me. He didn't know me, but he gave me a chance, and that was the start of me getting back on my feet. He included me in, family stuff. He took me out of the house, to the lake to go, fishing and swimming, have barbecue, things like that. And I can't remember his first name. It's been 6 years at this point. And I don't remember his wife's name, but I know the last name, and it was Woods. And he could never remember my name except my last name, because that was my grandma who was renting the place from his name, so he knew her. So he just referred to me as Homeboy, because I was always home. After a little bit living with him, I got a job. I hated it, but it was a job, and worked for a little bit. And then he, come to find out, was a felon on parole and had a few screws loose. So he got into it with my teenage cousin, and I just didn't want to be involved because police were there asking questions, this and that. I just told him, I was like, I don't know. I wasn't home when the situation happened, so I don't know. And I packed my stuff up and I left, and I ended up staying at my grandma's house a couple weeks later, after living out of my truck. Lived in my grandma's house, and then I got into it with my aunt, who was also living there. And my grandma told me that she didn't want me staying there. So once again, I was living out of my truck. I ended up spending a lot of time over in Payson, Utah, because there was more job opportunities out there versus Santaquin, because Santaquin's basically just residential homes. That's really it. You've got a couple gas stations and stuff on Main Street. You got at that time it was a Taco Bell, I believe, but not a lot of job options. So at that point, spending a lot of time pacing, living out of my truck, parked my truck at the McDonald's over there, because if you're parked at McDonald's, cops won't mess with you if you're just in your truck, because a lot of semis still park over in that parking lot at night and sleep, and so the officers didn't mess with you at the McDonald's parking lot. I mooch off their Wi-Fi to watch Netflix or whatever, because what else are you gonna really do? You're living out of your truck. And started getting cold. I was working over at a little burger joint called Polar Queen. I would drive over there, work, and then go back to my McDonald's parking spot and just wait until my next shift. Well, after a while, started getting cold again, because it does every year. And my dad had bought a 36-foot cargo trailer to haul around the, four-wheelers, razors, the ATV fucking toys. Well, it was going to be parked for the season, so my dad parked over there and says, at my grandma's property over in Payson. Different grandma than I was living with and had the rental house. And I would hang out over there, wander around the property, just, trying to keep my head straight, because I was severely depressed and contemplating suicide. And then I met a girl. She was working over at Polar Queen with me, and we talked a little bit, kind of hit it off, and we ended up dating. And I want to say it was either Christmas or New Year's. I was over at her house hanging out. She was 18. She lived with her aunt and her grandma. And they had found out, she had talked to them about my living situation. And her grandma, asked me to come talk to her. And, she's like are you really living out of a cargo trailer? Like, no heat, no AC, you don't even have a fucking bathroom in there. Like, luckily, my grandma had a little shop, like a shed area shop, I don't know. It was supposed to be a mother-in-law house for my great-grandma, but then she was crazy and unruly, so they put her in a nursing home instead. So I had, bathroom and a shower, like no heated water, but it was something. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't really have anywhere else to go, so she told me to go pack a bag and that I could crash on their couch. Well, anybody who's a young adult knows that you're not going to be crashing on the couch if the girl you're dating is, has a bedroom. So, one thing led to another, and she ended up pregnant. So I found another job working at a place called Look Trailers. And it wasn't a bad job. It paid decent. I think I was making $13 an hour at that job. And this was 4-ish years ago. And, so I was working full-time at the trailer place and part-time at the burger place. And then, December rolls around and my daughter was born. I thought my life was going as well as it could. I liked my job. I had a daughter. I was engaged again to a, wonderful girl who was, was the love of my life at the time. And I would have done anything for her. So after that, a few months later, we get told that we need to figure something out because Aunt and Grandma were moving to Missouri. They sold the house and we just had to figure it out. So I had gotten a different full-time job along with my working at the trailer place, and it was absolutely brutal. Like, it was only a seasonal job doing cherries over here, which means you go work at the plant where they process the cherries. It was cold and it was a night job, so I'd get up, go to work over at the trailer place at, I'd get up at 5, go to work, get off there at 4, and then I had to be over at the cherry place at 5:30 and got off at 4. 6 days a week. It was a nightmare. So I did the one thing that I know would keep me awake, which, if you know, you know, but if you don't, it's fucking drugs, obviously. And I turned into a completely fucking horrid person. Like, before, yeah, I wasn't perfect, and I definitely had a problem, because, now that I have therapists and mental health team of people to help me with all my nonsense, I realized I was being very controlling and manipulative, because I grew up seeing my dad do the same stuff to my mom, and seemingly they were happy. You're not gonna let your kids see that your marriage isn't perfect, but I'd see the little things that my dad would do, and I thought that's how relationships were supposed to be. Not an excuse, but it's a reason. And then, the drugs on top of it didn't help any. So I was being just a horrible person to her. And it was July 28th. She had just had enough of me. Her mom had come down to visit, and she was at work, and I had our, I want to say 5-month-old baby. It was my day off, so I was just hanging out, with the little one. And I told her mom to fuck off. She wasn't taking my kid to go visit, do whatever. I didn't care. I didn't even let her finish the sentence before I told her, go fuck yourself, because I don't want to see you. Me and her mom already didn't get along. So they called her, my fiance, and told her that, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I need you to handle this. Well, my phone was dead or off. I don't remember. I didn't have my phone. It was whatever. So she gets home, and I had locked us into the bedroom. Well, she has a key, obviously. Gets in, grabs our daughter, and hands her off to her mom, and then we just start fighting. Like, just fucking fighting about, how I felt like she didn't care about me because, this and that and bullshit, or fucking poor me, nonsense. And she had enough. Well, phone died, and I had run into Maverick to grab me a Mountain Dew. But back to what I was saying. I told her mom just to fuck off, and she had enough. So, she went outside, called my dad, talked to him a little bit, and told him, he was like, hey, you're gonna go stay at your dad's for a little bit until, we can get, something figured out, because neither one of us are happy. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I, grabbed my clothes I need for work, and I left. Next morning, I, quit my fucking second job because I, couldn't handle it, and had made some other poor decisions. And so I was, at my parents' house, just drunk as drunk can get, and still function, I guess. So I, let her go off to to Missouri to help her aunt move, and grandma. And I just kind of hung out at home, waiting for her to get back. And she had messaged me, telling me when, that's not the way I wanted, saying that, hey, this is the day we're gonna be back, come by after you get off work, and we can talk. I get off work, go over to the house, and her uncle's there, hands me a box and says, here you go. I'm like, well, where's Shay? Because we were, supposed to talk. He told me that they got home at like 2 a.m, packed up some stuff, and took off with her mom. Well, he didn't say with her mom, but she took off with her mom, to go stay with them. He told me that she packed up some stuff and she took off. Like, I'm not an idiot. I know she, went to her mom's house. But, you know, she obviously didn't want me to know where she was going, so I left it at that. And I didn't hear from her for I don't know how long. It was 5-ish months, I want to say. I don't know. It was a while. Maybe it wasn't 5 months. Because she took off in beginning of August. And I didn't hear from her or see my daughter till mid-November. And by that time, I had been in a bad place mentally for quite a while. And I had decided I was done. You know, if I can't see my daughter, if I can't, you know, talk to the girl that I love more than anything in this fucking world, then I was done. I had tried to commit suicide on 4 separate occasions. Obviously didn't succeed, but don't know how. I gave myself alcohol poisoning numerous occasions. I had drank 3 bottles of Everclear. You know, just the little ones, like, I drank a bunch of those and assumed I would just die of alcohol poisoning or asphyxiate on my own fucking vomit. I didn't. I, you know, woke up just feeling like shit. You know, woke up, kept drinking because I had a fucking alcohol problem. And then I had tried to hang myself, but I'm a big fucking dude, so shit just fucking broke. No, I don't know how. I wove together a bunch of fucking, you know, 150-pound fucking test paracord. Should have held me, but it didn't. I had mixed bleach and ammonia in a fucking bucket and handcuffed myself to the fucking toilet. And, well, I mixed ammonia, bleach in one, and then bleach and vinegar in the other, because one's fucking mustard or chlorine, one's fucking chloroform. So, you know, I expected, you know, to fucking knock out and then just pass away. Somehow woke up fucking outside, you know, 24 hours fucking later. Don't know what happened. Why my neighbors didn't call the cops or, you know, an ambulance to see if I was fucking okay is beyond me. Don't know how long I was out there. Don't know nothing about it. And then I had taken another occasion all my fucking prescription meds and a bottle of fucking ibuprofen and just took them fucking all. And then again, woke up fucking sitting on my couch. So, you know, obviously been trying to fucking commit suicide. Didn't work. So, at that point, I was like, fuck it. Like, I've tried and I can't do it. So, again, I went back to this app called Whisper because they're supposed to be anonymous fucking things. And I had gone, they were looking for somebody to kill me. And I offered them, you know, everything that was in my bank account. It wasn't much, but somebody out there is desperate enough for money just to do it. So I ended up talking to this dude and then got sober. And then, you know, saw my daughter. And I was over at my in-laws' house just hanging out because I'd still go over there and just sit and hang out with him. And she just shows up. And, at that point, like, I had quit doing all my dumb shit. I was trying to get my shit together. I had another new job making $20 an hour. And had went and got a lawyer and was trying to figure out custody stuff. Well, she shows up and, I see my daughter, I want to say 3 times. And then the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I was supposed to have my daughter for Thanksgiving, there's a knock at my door. I'm assuming it's my buddy that I had texted to come, hang out with me. So I answered the door, and there's a pair of officers standing there. Turns out the person I was talking to on the Whisper, that's supposed to be an anonymous fucking site, was an officer. And I was arrested. I spent, I think, the next 6 months in jail waiting to be charged because they couldn't decide what to charge me. I was in jail for probably 2 months before I was formally charged, which is generally not how things work. But they did a special exception for me because I'm an idiot. And I'm going to pause this for a minute. So, well, that wasn't working. But I originally got charged with criminal solicitation of attempted murder and hindering an investigation. Because an officer had, come to talk to me about the situation, not knowing that the person that was trying to hire the hitman was me, because I didn't, give too much details. And yeah, I didn't tell him what was going on. I just told him, I was I don't know, don't want to talk about it. Basically told the officer to fuck off. So I got charged, sat in jail for 6 months, got out of jail for, day that I actually got, sentenced and everything. I got released because they had amended the charges from 2 first-degree felonies to a 3rd degree and a Class A misdemeanor. Class A misdemeanor of retaliation against a witness, and then I don't remember what the felony charge was worded as, but basically the attempted murder one was retaliation against a witness, and the other one was whatever the fuck they worded it as. I don't remember. It's been fucking 3 years. And got out of jail. Didn't have a job because I just spent the last 6 months in jail. Obviously, no job. So got out of jail, was working with my dad's buddy for a little bit, just to make some pocket change. Got into a transitional housing program, so I had a place to live. Got robbed while in the housing program by my roommate, because I had gone to, work with my dad's buddy building this cabin thing for, a weekend. So I wasn't home, and at that point all my money was in cash, so it was in my room, behind a locked door. He had jimmied the lock and stolen my money. So that guy got kicked out of the program, and then I got a job working at Petco. After a while of working at Petco, I bounced around between a couple, temp jobs. And one of the guys I was in jail with, we kept in contact, and he was married, and had a child and needed a place to stay. Well, housing program got shut down, so I was renting my apartment directly from the landlord. So I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. So he came to stay with me, and after a while, my lease was ending, and I was supposed to re-sign the lease. But before I had a chance to re-sign a lease, my buddy, who turns out wasn't really a buddy, he was just taking advantage of me. He talked to the landlord and convinced the landlord to rent it to him and boot me out. So I spent the next month and a half once again homeless, working at this place called Bestial Mattress and Furniture, which I still work there. It's a great job. I love it. I don't get paid as much as I wish I could, but job's a job. Gotta keep it. So I finally, with the boss man's help, different ideas and stuff, found a place to live that was, not too far from work. It's actually where I'm currently living. And it's not a bad place. It's a 6-bedroom house. I've got 6 roommates because the landlord lives with us with one of his buddies, so they share a room. So there's 6 of us in the house. Well, 7, but one of the guys I was living with just moved out because he just didn't like it. So now there's 6 of us. And more recently, I was on a dating site called Meet Me because I'm lonely and looking for a significant other. And my old roommate's buddy's wife was on there. So, we started talking, and I, met up with her. One thing led to another. And then about a week or so later, her husband found out that, stuff was going on. So, she blocked me on anything you could block me on. And I just didn't have contact with her. She told me, that, before she disappeared, that her and her husband were separating. But she had found a new boyfriend already. So, she went off and was doing her thing. I, was kind of just doing my thing, just working and working. And then about a week ago now, I get a text that just says, "New phone, who's this?" And at that time, I hadn't texted anybody that day. I don't talk to a lot of people. The people that I had talked to that day were, coworkers, my boss. And, I was either talking to them in person or had called them because, you need to talk to a coworker and you need an answer now, you just call them. So I called him, I didn't text him. So I told him, this number that, hey, don't know who you are. I didn't text you. You texted me. I haven't texted anybody today. And so I got the response of, "Oh, this is Miranda, the girl who's married that I was, seeing briefly." So I'm just thinking like, okay, like I don't know what's going on. Like I haven't talked to you in a month, so if something's going on, it really has nothing to do with me. So I straight up told her like, hey, like I haven't talked to you in a month or more. What do you want? And her response was, well, I'm pregnant, if you'd like to know. So, we were talking, and she was fairly certain that it was my child. So, we were figuring out, this and that. And then come to find out, she's still with her husband. Which, it's whatever. But, she's, saying that he's treating her horribly, this and that. So, I was trying to get something figured out for her. And I do have something figured out. But she, we hadn't hung out again. We went to a Halloween party. She didn't drink or anything at all that night. But I was drinking. And, she started telling me that she loved me. And I'm pretty inclined to believe it. We've talked every day the last couple weeks. And I have developed some pretty strong feelings for this girl. And then yesterday she texted me a little upset, saying that she thinks she had a miscarriage. And I can't convince her to go to a doctor to see if she's had a miscarriage. But she says that she was bleeding and in pain, so I, don't know anything really about miscarriages. Never had one myself because, obviously. And today she hasn't really texted me much, so I'm a little worried about her. And just at the point where I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Mostly because I have this girl telling me that she loves me. But she's still with her husband, who she says that she wants to get a divorce with, who she says is treating her horribly, who, this quote-unquote man who was drunk and pulled a gun on her, allegedly. So, I don't know. I just don't know if I can keep getting jerked around like this. I can't have another person that tells me they love me just disappear. Because I feel like I've been through enough. And this is the abridged version of my life. Like, obviously there's more situations that occurred, more people that, have been around. Those are the important points. So, yeah, that's my life in a nutshell. So I'm gonna go find out how to edit videos, I guess. Because I think this has been taken in 3 or 4 fucking, segments that I need to somehow piece together so I can post it all as one video. But yeah, stay tuned for more fucked up stories from Taylor. Maybe I'll post some other bullshit, but as of right now, this is just gonna be a personal video diary place because I don't really know what else to do.